Originally, I come from Ukraine, but since 6 years, I live and work in Switzerland, and particularly in Bern. But as you know, Switzerland is a little country, so you're actually engaged in different places. I am the coach of artistic swimming, so in the past was called synchronized swimming. And currently I work with the Swiss national teams, and my last project was head coach of the Tokyo 2021. Originally I come from Ukraine, and I was born in Kiev, so it's the capital of Ukraine. And I started sport myself when I was 7 years old. I went directly to the synchronized swimming section. And at the age of 13, I was selected in the national team, and I swam for Ukraine national team for 6 years. And at the age of 19, I quit, and I continued seriously with my studies. And I defended my PhD in Olympic and professional sport in cooperation with International Olympic Academy that is based in Olympia in Greece. And I dedicated myself to sport in both directions, in scientific and in coaching. Parallel to that, I started working with the team that is also based in Kiev, where I was born and where I actually started my sport career, and I was helping my coach. And next to it, I was also working at the university. I was giving lectures to the students of the National University of Sport, and I was the senior lecturer. And then right after, when I defended my PhD, I went abroad to work. So, and my first and for the moment last place where I work is Switzerland. The reason why I started is quite banal, because my mom was very scared of water, so she couldn't swim. So the only wish for us she had, that all of us, because I have still 2 siblings, we all know how to swim. And I came just to the swimming section to learn how to swim. And then I was observed by one of the coaches. So she invited me to try the sport. And I was not pretty gifted or talented there, but I was very, very persistent and hardworking person. So basically, when everybody was telling me it's not possible, I was one of those who was, pushing hard to actually prove that it's not possible for you, but it's doable for me. And I think that challenge was actually, going next to me. I would not say chasing me, but would go parallel to me, throughout all my career, to prove everybody that, you don't absolutely need to be gifted for a sport you choose, but you really need to work hard, like to the last drop of blood and sweat, to reach your goals. Back then, your friends, it's actually your environment, the swimming pool. So the only contacts you used to have was, our synchronized swimmers or swimmers, as we all trained together at the same base. And from 6th grade, I turned to a sports school, and there was all pretty well organized, according to our training schedule. So I could have 3 hours of training in the morning, then going to school, attend first part of lessons, then again come back to the swimming pool for second training, and finish my school day around 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. And then that actually continues until 11th grade. And in Kiev, where I was born and based, there was no national team base. So in order for me to be a national team member, I had to move to another city, which is called Kharkiv. And together with that, I had to also switch my school. So basically, most of the time I had to spend out of home and to train and study in another city. I think, any kind of challenges that kid, because I think, when you're 13 and it's not the totally new generation, what we can, observe now, face, make you actually, kind of steel and iron, because you know that you can rely only yourself. You're out of home, you're out of, family support. You really have to fight for your place, to be noticed, to be put in the team, and at the same time, you need to be kind enough to your swim mates so that you also don't get in the, conflicts with them. So you kind of, live in a wild life there, but you pretend to be, a furry kitten, something like that. And you kind of learn that there is no problem in this life. You can only have some concerns and issues, but actually the only problem when you're already done and gone. So I would say that, make me believe that nothing can actually stop you, or kind of be an obstacle on your way. Because when you're able to overtake that, being that small, you can only develop when you grow up. When I was swimming myself, we used to also, work together in pairs, and, help each other, watch each other, correct each other. And there was one competition where I had to support my, club mate who was, swimming a solo. And I was the one who was kind of responsible to, prepare for that competition and to help her out, even though back then I was still an athlete and I was still swimming. And I absolutely loved that. Of course, I understand that, it's, the swimmer of my age, the swimmer with a, pretty high level of preparedness, and, it's kind of easy. But it turned on that fire that I really want to study how to make it from the beginning, how you actually bring up the athlete to that level, so that you can really see yourself maybe in 10 years at the same page, but being out of the water, but on the pool deck, and to coach officially, on behalf of coach, and not just as a supporter, and to be just a friend of the person. When I entered university, I was still, swimming. So I was still an athlete. So I just, attended the bachelor course. And still being an athlete, I already finished my master degree. And at that moment, I quit. And I took like a short break. But the thing that I was such a good student, so I finished, both bachelor and master with A grade. People were kind of, proposing me to think about, also scientific career, to become a professor at the university, because, I was, pretty, feeling free and simple to talk in front of the audience, to take a stage. So I was not very shy. Our sport requires that you always have to, show up, to be happy, to smile, not to be scared, and so on. So I was quite, feeling comfortable at that, point. So they were kind of proposing me, to keep trying. But back then I got married and got my first kid. So, I was kind of in a motherhood, and I had to prepare all the exams. And I was thinking, okay, I give it a try. And then if I pass, I pass. If I don't, then apparently I don't have to become a scientist. I would do something else. And I had to pass 3 exams. That was philosophy, English, and specialization. So basically Olympic and professional sport. And I've completely succeeded in that. And I got a spot at the postgraduate course. And, I absolutely love it because, I had an opportunity to do my research, abroad, and also based on, on the laboratory at the university. And I had, opportunity to work with the best athletes in Ukraine. So with the national team swimmers. So actually all this process was just fantastic, when you understand, the scene behind, what it takes to prepare an athlete. And feeling being a part of this process kind of brings you to the space. At the same time, I kind of enjoyed giving lectures to the students, even though I was understanding the theoretical part only. It's not really mine, because I want to implement things practically. And therefore I was back then thinking that when I finish my my thesis and I will defend it, I will not just stop with being a lecturer, but I'll definitely become a professional coach. I was in contact with a person who was also swimming at the same time that I was swimming. As sports community is pretty small, and synchronized swimming community even smaller. So everybody knows everybody. And I saw, the job offer that she published, and I got in contact with her. So we just started chatting. So we got on Skype. We were discussing how to, make it try. And yeah, I came just for a trial. It lasted for 3 weeks. And then I decided that I would really love to try, because it's another challenge, to move to another country, with the kid, with completely new language, with things that you never ever faced before. So I was feeling like this is exactly extreme that I need at the moment. So I will absolutely, leave all the fears behind and I will go for it. And sitting here now talking to you, I have zero regrets. Yeah, the mentality is absolutely different. It's incomparable. And, first time it was very hard for me and for my athletes, to actually get aligned, to understand each other. That was very, very big challenge. And, we had some fights, we had some, misunderstandings. But, you understand that you need to shape yourself. But at the same time, you need to, teach them, that perfection, that, hard working that they have to bring, not only fun in training, but fun when you're already achieving something, staying on the podium or seeing your results, and the work you put in it, to have this kind of fun. So, we had many meetings, many talks. I did try to change myself to adjust to them. And thanks to them, they came towards me and they did do the same. But also in terms of structure, it's totally different if we compare, Eastern European, Western European, because for us, doing a high level sport, a competitive sport, it's a job. When here in Switzerland, it's not. They are mostly all amateurs because, they are not paid. And, it all has to be covered by family, by parents, or by private sponsors. And, you actually try to explain them and demand as much as you do, for example, the Eastern European countries, but it makes a little bit different impact as, they invest their own money. And not that they don't want, but, they have a little bit different view on things, on how must be, achieve those results and how, they have to be treated, as they pay you directly, basically, they're your employers. So this is also make it a little bit more complicated, and you really need to have very close and trust relationship with your athletes, in order to achieve the results in such a country as Switzerland, for example. I would still say that I am that direct and that emotional as I was before, and I think that make that special about me. Even though I try to be a bit more diplomatic and, of course, choose words carefully, much more carefully than before, and not to say the way I would have said when I arrived, but I still try to bring the meaning as I mean and I have in my mind, just maybe with a little bit softer approach and softer words. But in terms of my reactions, in terms of my emotions, I will never able to give up on them and to change, because I really take things, both positive and negative, very close to my heart. And I think that also creates that vibe between us. Yeah, the point that they don't have very much support, on the national level or like in the municipal level, because there are not so many sports schools that then can support them doing really high level sport and dedicate enough time to trainings. Because, in every single sport, particularly now in synchronized swimming, the specialization happens earlier. The amount of training hours raises, from year to year, drastically. And there are not so many sports schools that can support. And unfortunately, it's even much more difficult, when they finish school and they turn to the university. So, it's quite really hard to balance and to manage that, because even though they're extremely passionate about what they are doing and they're really, giving everything they can, but they're always limited by, those circumstances, I would say, with the school or with the exams or with, university, whatever, because we had, plenty of cases when, school did not let swimmers to attend international competition like European or World Championship, because at that time they had, their final exams at school. They did not even allow them, to shift the dates. And, that makes it even more complicated, because I would say here in Switzerland, people are completely driven by passion to the sport they do. because the amount of time, money, and problems they have to face and overtake makes them unique. I truly believe that the coach is like a second parent, is like a mentor, it's a friend, it's the person that you can really rely on in all terms, not only in terms of your sport career, but also in terms what happens when you step out of your facility. And when a person has you know complete trust out of the swimming pool, for me now particularly, right? I can reach much more in the swimming pool because person gives me a total freedom, and the person follows me in absolutely everything I say. And this tandem makes it you know this golden result in the end. So I really think that the biggest impact that you can have on the person is to build up them, their kind of character and their like life approach, so that they are not only successful in the sport, but they're also coming successful people out of sport. Difficult to say philosophy because I'm not coaching to please the kids. I'm not coaching kids to please myself, because I'm an ambition person. I'm coaching because I have an absolute passion for the sport. And for me, in the end, it does not matter how many titles I won, but it matters a lot, which impact I had and influence on people's life. So, I kind of see myself, as a creator that makes, a person shape a person and gives, the right tools to step out and, to continue living. Because, we get kids when they're 5, 6, 7 years old, and we go up with them. Our trainings last up to 10 hours per day. So, the kids spend so much time with us that in the end, you really become everything in all terms. And the way you influence those kids will make them humans. So, this is for me the main, and things that what I always think foremost. It's not only which result I will get, but which person I will create by that coaching. I would say that I can find an approach almost to every single person, both in terms of athlete and people, stuff I have to work with. In the end, I've never ever had a conflict of interest, neither with athletes nor with coaching stuff. So I can say that maybe I'm the one who always find the golden middle in order to achieve the major goal. I attend many courses. I try to participate in seminars. I also attend seminars in judging, also to understand and to see, from the coach, from the judge's point of view, like to have, a judge eye in coach, and also like, scientific literature. And another thing, like, the exchange with another specialist and another coaches from different sports and, different nations. I have this feeling every single time, when I come out of the training and I didn't, get the goal of the training and I'm not satisfied, I'm furious with myself, because I really know, that this is just something I give myself full out. So, every training for me, it's like a short little life, I go there, I live it through, I close the door, and next time I come into it from the beginning with the same full power. So I not just think, I truly believe that I'm good at it. When I am on the pool deck coaching, I am a professional, so I cannot let emotions go out, because, I'm observed and I'm also the example for my athletes, and I cannot really show them what's going on inside of me. But of course, when I can go out, I let them fully go. It's either crying or laughing or just, doing like very insane things, doesn't matter, but, they really need to go. And right afterwards, you kind of feel coming back and ready to move on. But with the athletes, I'm trying to be always, very, very calm, because they already quite excited and nervous before competition. So from my side, I have to bring them, this calmness, security, and, this belief that they are ready to perform. Beside the COVID impact that we all had, I think now it's going to last quite long. Yeah, many girls that actually, had quite potential, good potential, and, were pretty talented, they are finishing their sport career because, the opportunity for trainings are not the same. The, requirements from sport organizations are different. And, many organizations lost plenty of money without running the competition, and they have even less support than used to. And for this certain moment, I would say this, COVID impact, had very, very, huge destruction, and that will take a while, also to bring back, this discipline, because being closed for such a long time and then not being able to train because you're out of the age group that is allowed to go to the swimming pool, and you need to run everything by yourself individually, and also going to the gym in mask, and that's really make all this even crazier than it was before. So for me, I think this is for the moment the worst case. I have so much passion for the sport, so I can even, look back and analyze myself that maybe there were just a very few times, but mostly I come to the training, full of energy and very motivated. And, when they see your coach, your mentor, being so much engaged, with the fire and ice, you kind of get these emotions, because you always exchange. So sometimes, even when they come tired after school or being out of mood, but seeing that fire that goes on, they actually get it. But most of the times, we discuss also, what is the main and major goal, like for the long term, for midterm and short term. And then we divide it on different blocks so that, it's a little bit easier to reach those goals and not to lose the motivation. Because if you always think about Olympic Games that might take place in 20 years, of course, you will not keep the track, with the same passion. So it's always easier for kids, for athletes, to be, complimented and to, celebrate little wins. So then, they keep this track and they, do not lose the motivation. I've never had such a situation. I always think that there is a way. If I feel that I cannot help the person, I always ask for help. Because if I feel that something goes wrong, and I always go in talk and ask, what do you think the problem? Maybe we need, an external help from mental coach, or maybe from another, specialist in, I don't know, different field. And then sometimes, actually the problem is hidden back there. And again, coming back, if you have pretty close relationship with your athletes, you easily discover that. And, in the end, it's possible to achieve. Maybe you have to adjust your goal, but in the end, it's still doable and possible to achieve. That's a very painful question. Yes, yes, yes. I can say many times yes. And unfortunately, really unfortunately, this is very, very frequent case. People that are gifted and talented, they get things for granted. They get results without putting effort in it. And that's why they don't value that. They don't appreciate. For them, it's very, very easy. And that's why, they burn out. But burnout for me, in terms of, they lose the interest much faster than those who really have to climb up, and really to go through the hell. Then they, value every single step they did, every single little win they got. And you try to talk to the person, but when they see, that putting in place like this, they're still better than the others that are working that hard, they don't hear you. But then it happens at one moment when, this kind of talent gets to be beaten by hard work, because you grow up, you had already your puberty, you stop developing, and then all of a sudden they are better than you. So what happens? You're not used to work hard, you're not disciplined, you're not used to overtake your defeats, so they quit. And unfortunately, that's very, very frequent case. This is quite, intuitionally. I know that, when athletes start crying, certain athletes, that's kind of a point where I really need to stop. But there are some athletes, when they start crying, this is just a start point. And from here on, we can already start, fixing things and working on the results. So it's very, very individual approach to each athlete. And you really need to, know them, to feel them. Like, it's like a tandem of heartbeats, to understand what is, approachable for that and what is absolutely not possible to the other. So that's coach's intuition. Yeah, and unfortunately, that also, takes place because, as I already said before, our sport is very, very early specialization, and now coaches want to reach goals even earlier, because every single federation try to invent something, develop something that attracts people, participants, sponsors, and so on. So, for example, in our sport, now we have world championship at age of 13, which never happened before. So now by age of 13, kids had to be ready to not just to face, but already to go through so many things in order to attend such a competition, that they are still very, very fragile. But in all terms, in physical terms, in psychological terms, and technical terms, but they must be already robots. So I think, coaches are also put in the situation, in the frame, when they have to be a little bit, harsh, because that's, the requirement that is put by International Federation. Yeah, and being too nice when you have, a team sport, unfortunately never brought a result. You still remain the same, mentor, a parent, just, your kind of list of responsibilities a little bit longer than you have with the older ones, and it's a little bit different from the one that you're gonna have. So like little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. So that's pretty similar over there. But you always have to keep in mind that they're first of all humans and not only the athletes. So before you go to the swimming pool, you always put yourself back on earth, get a little grounded, and you still think that they are kids. Of course, they need to work hard, but they still have to go home and to feel this happiness and satisfaction of what they are doing. So, and for that, they really need to, again, it's always coming back to the trust, to this really close relationship between, because it's really like a family unit. I think it's those who do extra, those who work without being asked, those who you know for those who are good is not enough if really great is possible. For those who are ready to work when they're not observed. So all these little details, that they are ready to do themselves consciously, without putting pressure from the coach, make them really great. Maybe they won't achieve those great results, but for sure they will achieve great results in life. Now I think it's like in many areas and fields, because now we have this full freedom of social media, full freedom of talking, of expressing whatever we think, and it all has to be taken and accepted. And the authority of old people is, or not older people, is not the same like we used to have before. So I think things are getting developed, but we're not that fast with this space to adapt, and therefore we consider the challenges. But for them, I think this is the pace of life, when for us this is some, maybe some difficulty. So I think mostly, it depends on us what we see as a difficulty. Yeah, this is really incredibly important, also community, this unit. But at the same time, the role of parent is always to support, is never to coach, is never to, discuss, especially, say some, negative thoughts or impressions about, training, coach, results in everything. It's always about being there for kids, no matter what they are good or bad, they win or lose, but still, to give them that security that no matter what, they have that support. And yeah, it works both way: coach parent, parent athlete, athlete parent, and coach athlete, and so on. But I think in the end, when you give this a full support to your kid, that no matter what, you succeed or you lose, you will be the most lovable kid in the world, make the difference. And of course, they have to have trust in coach, because if the parent has absolutely zero trust in what the coach is doing, and even when the kid comes home complaining how tired he or she is, and parent says, you still know that this is the way you want to achieve your goals, and this is the person you really have to trust to, then there won't be any kind of conflict of interest. So I think, and I really hope that in the very near future, we will have, men included in the Olympic program, because, officially from 2015, we have mixed duets that were included in their world championships. But, we were all expecting that it will be included also in program of Paris 24, but it wasn't. So for the moment, I think, the involvement and to the development of the strategy, how attract the boys to do the sport, is number one. But at the same time, there is a very high risk, that the boys now will push out the amount of girls practicing the sport, because originally this sport was done by boys. Will also a little bit challenge that. But as I know, regarding the Olympic agenda, it's all about gender equality. So as soon as will be reached, it will be easier to manage. And as we know, there are only two sports that are women's sport left: it's rhythmic gymnastics and synchronized swimming. So I think this kind of changes will come sooner or later, hopefully sooner, so that we can adjust to them faster, will anyway happen. Second challenge, definitely, again, it's all impacted by Corona, virtual competition. Because in my opinion, they cannot be even fair, because every single country, club, athlete has its own, facility. And, you're anyway judged by international rules, where you're supposed all to compete in one, venue with the same requirements. But unfortunately, you are judged by what they see, and they see only from one side, from one angle, and from the place where you actually train, even though it does not fit, the international requirements. I don't want to think about that, because I'm not going to retire next 40 years for sure. And I think, in that amount of time, I will still do a lot, and I will still, change, my way, my philosophy, and, also my vision to the training. So I think this statement will be changed and will be shaped, according to the situation I face. So I will excuse myself and not answer on that question. I would still continue working with the high-level athletes in a competitive sport, to work with the national team. But I also have very big interest, to open my own club, and, to run it from the, total scratch, from the beginning, and to start also with the young athletes, and, to try to bring that, mentality of being an athlete, to live athlete lifestyle, from the moment, they step in the swimming pool and decide to do the sport, to make the difference when they're still little, rather than, when they're 15, 17 and older, when it's almost impossible, or it costs you so much, both you and athlete, because so many things already formed. And yeah, that's a quite big battle. That was my first coach when I did start sport, because I still have in my head many quotes, many corrections that I got. They are very, very fresh in my head. And my first coach in the national team. They're still, my role models and examples of, what it takes and mean to be a coach. As a coach, I would say, it's not possible to even underline, because you know you have so many people, being thankful for what they did, for what they reached, from what they got from you, from who they became because of you, so that it's not possible even to underline. And again, I don't even want to specify certain competition, because it makes no sense. In the end, I always come back to the point, your great friend with all your athletes, they are always say thank you. They invite you to your graduation, they invite you to their marriage, or to family events. So I think this is my biggest title I ever won. And as an athlete, it's also not about the competition and the medals that I won, but who I became because of what I did as an athlete, and how I did, and the way and the path I went through. So I think because of that, of course, without support of your family, friends, it wouldn't be possible. But still, this sport made the biggest impact on who I am now and who I want my athletes to become. Yes, I do, because we did not qualify to Olympic Games in Tokyo 21. And, I always think, it's a win or lose, both athlete and coach. And I do regret that we were not there. And I also take it, as my mistake, of course, to keep trying, to make mistakes, and not to give up, to admit that it is normal, to keep failing, to look for your own way of coaching, for your own, methods, methodology, philosophy, and never stop, developing yourself. That's for sure. There is absolutely no right way. There is only your way, and you really need to find that way that brings your satisfaction and result for you and your athletes. Yeah, I don't have favorite series, but I have my 3 favorite movies, which are quite heavy. Green Mile, $1 Million Baby, and the last one, it's one from Soviet Union, so I would not even name it, because people don't know it anyway. I don't have favorite song. Since we are so much, engaged with music, and I, listen so many different ones that I cannot even name one. That's for sure not social media, because I don't even have Instagram. So this is one that I have, an educational one, which is called Pan American Games, and there are different topics on sport. From the psychological, tactical, and physical preparation, the interviews, and so on. And then it's Whoop. Yeah, it's I think you've heard, it's your special trainer and tracker, and it's a book. It's a read era. Cats. Hot. Hmm. I would never ever say chess, honestly. Hmm, doesn't exist. I think they're all, worse being cool. Make other happy. Lion. I really like my name, and I've never had the thought, across my mind. So I would keep mine. It's a pretty beautiful one. I want to be a happy grandmother.